Commercial weight loss programs all tend to be one size fits all. They don't really take into consideration that people are genetically different, that they live different lifestyles, and have their own individual food preferences. And of course, we all have our own individual caloric intake requirements. To better understand why commercial weight loss programs fail, let's take a look at the fuzzy math behind their weight loss protocol. Even though it was debunked many years ago, the weight loss gurus want us to believe that 3,500 calories is equal to 1 pound on the scale. This is their starting point. Then, with simple math, they calculate that 7,000 calories will equal 2 pounds on the scale. So if they cut out 1,000 calories per day for 7 days, that will equal 7,000 calories, or 2 pounds. This is why you always hear about losing 2 pounds a week in all their advertising. So, using their math, let's play it out. If you weigh 200 pounds and reduce your intake by 1,000 calories per day, or 7,000 calories per week, then, in theory, you should lose 2 pounds per week, right? And if we extrapolate this over 52 weeks, then you'd lose 104 pounds. If we continue with this protocol and the math holds up, well, by the end of the second year, you should totally disappear. Obviously, none of this really works. It's fake physiology and faulty protocol right from the start. First off, as most of us already know, the body is very efficient at storing fat. Next, it's physiologically easier for the body to convert healthy lean tissue into usable energy. So one way to look at it is that commercial diets actually starve muscle, not fat. And finally, most diets do not mandate physical activity. Oh, sure, they may recommend it, suggest it, state that it's a good idea, but they don't make it mandatory. Remember, the body requires oxygen in order to burn fat, and the only way to get oxygen into the body is through exercise. So it's obvious that the protocol is faulty in design, but it gets worse. Just take a look at how a restricted calorie diet program affects your body in other ways. It stresses the body by making it believe it's in starvation mode. Without enough calories and nutrients, the body's immune system is severely compromised. It agitates the central nervous system and creates all kinds of hormonal imbalances. So how does this all play out in the real world? Meet Joe Dieter. He's 40 years old. He's 6'1" and weighs 200 pounds. His body fat is 24%, which he maintains with an intake of about 3,000 calories a day consumed in 2 big meals. In just 10 weeks, Joe is going back to his high school reunion, and he wants to look good. In fact, he would like to look the way he looked when he graduated, back when he weighed 170 pounds. So just like millions of others, he walks into a commercial weight loss center and enrolls in their quickie weight loss program. After all, he's only got 10 weeks. Of course, the very first thing they do is reduce Joe's caloric intake by 1,000 calories a day. Sound familiar? But it's working. Just look at Joe's results. His weight has dropped from 200 pounds down to 190. He's lost 10 pounds in just 2 weeks. Joe is a really good dieter. And the only thing he notices is that he's feeling a little sluggish. But that's a small price to pay for what he sees on his bathroom scale. So Joe continues a few more weeks on his 2,000 calorie diet until week number 5, when he hits the dreaded plateau. But that's no problem, because luckily for Joe, the Commercial Weight Loss Center just happens to have a Plateau Busters program, where they now cut Joe's intake down to 1,500 calories per day. That's half of what he was consuming just 5 weeks ago. But it worked. Joe dropped 10 more pounds. He's down to 180. However, these days he's feeling really sluggish and seems to require a lot more sleep. And now he's experiencing headaches. On top of that, he's constantly craving sugars and fats. He'd kill for a candy bar or some ice cream. Have you ever wondered why all dieters crave sugars and fats? Why not broccoli and carrots? It's because the body is trying to get the most immediate and usable form of energy possible, and that's sugar and fat. Meanwhile, Joe is the ultimate dieter, and his reunion is right around the corner. So he sucks it up and continues on his 1,500 calorie diet. Lo and behold, he did it. Joe got down to 170 pounds in just 10 weeks. He's been a very successful dieter. He's ready for his reunion. But let's take a look at what really happened. Yes, Joe went from 200 pounds down to 170 pounds in just 10 weeks, and his body fat decreased from 24% down to 22%. So he lost 30 pounds, but only 2% body fat. What this means is that most of the weight Joe lost was healthy, lean tissue. His body literally cannibalized itself as a way to survive. Nonetheless, Joe made it to his reunion, and now the pressure is off. Can you guess what he starts to do the very next week? Joe slowly begins to increase his caloric intake. A little more chicken, a little more rice, an extra slice of toast, a piece of bacon, a little ice cream here and there. Poor Joe doesn't realize his metabolism has adapted to 1,500 calories, so his body doesn't need the extra calories he started to consume. Let's take a look at Joe 1 year later. Now Joe is 41 years old, and look, just 1 year later, he weighs 203 pounds because he's increased his caloric intake. He's now 32% body fat, and he's doing it all on just 2,000 calories a day. That's 1,000 calories less than when he first started. And here's the saddest part. Joe is so alarmed over this weight gain that he decides to go back to the same commercial weight loss center to start the same process all over again. This is what we all know to be yo-yo dieting. Do you remember when Oprah Winfrey wheeled out her little red wagon? And do you remember what happened 1 year later after she gained all her weight back? Throughout the world, this exact same scenario plays out millions of times a year. In fact, it's happening right now.